My name is Lyndsey Stonebridge. I'm Professor of Humanities and Human Rights at the University of Birmingham in the UK. Welcome to my exp. So one of the phrases that Arendt is most well known for is the famous phrase, the banality of evil, which was a phrase that she coined when she went to watch the trial of Adolf Eichmann in Jerusalem in 1961. Eichmann was a war criminal who had escaped to Argentina and been captured by Israeli secret services, the Mossad, and brought to Jerusalem for trial. It was an extraordinarily important moment in the world's coming to terms with the Holocaust. Now, Arendt's phrase, the banality of evil, is often misunderstood as saying, well, actually Eichmann was kind of innocent because he was just, part of the system, part of this banal system. But actually what Arendt was trying to get at with that phrase takes us back to the issue of thinking, or the opposite of thinking, which is not thinking, which is thoughtless. So when she arrived in Jerusalem, she said to her mentor and her former teacher, Karl Jaspers, I just have to go and look at this man face to face. I have to go and look at him face to face and try and work out what's happening. And she thought the trial was terribly, terribly important because it did things that the Nuremberg trial wasn't able to do. And she was already worried about the Nuremberg trial because she understood that the unprecedented nature of the Nazi crime produced new challenges for law, for judgment, and you guessed it, for thinking. And she was very, very worried about Nuremberg because she said, this is a new crime. How are we going to judge it? We can't judge it using old tools. We're going to have to learn, and this is the first time she uses this phrase, to think without banisters. So she goes to Jerusalem to think without banisters. She sees Eichmann in his glass box, and on the first day that she saw him, he got a cold. He was a middle-aged guy. He'd forgotten which glasses he'd got on, and he was just chuntering cliches. He seemed to have no sense of where he was, who he was talking to. Not to say he was stupid or clueless, and actually I think she got him wrong. He was far more cunning than she gave him credit for. But what she said is, this is a man who's done this extraordinary evil and who has no thought about it. He did it unthinkingly, which is not the same to say he was stupid, but he did it unthinkingly. And she said, and I'm trained as a literary critic, so this is very important to me, it comes across in his language. He's just talking self-aggrandizing, ridiculous cliches. He's like your worst uncle at the worst wedding ever, lecturing you on probably Brexit or Trump or things you don't want to be lectured about. So it's not just institutions, it's social life that can produce these kinds of banal thoughtlessness. And Arendt, I think, is often misunderstood by this. She had quite a kind of dogmatic division between private life, which she wanted to protect, the social, which she thought was tyrannical, and the political realm, where she wanted people to make judgments and to discuss and to judge and to be in politics. And she saw the social as attacking both politics, so all politics becomes a question of social taste or norms or stepping out of line, and as catastrophically private life as well. And it used to be the case, and certainly as a feminist, you might have issues with this because a lot of what happens to women, a lot of feminist struggles, and a lot of race struggles are very much based on what happens in the private life, which doesn't get to see the light of day. But I think now, if we think about the growth of the social, we think about social media, we think about how social media and the social has pushed out a sense of politics being a space for debate and for accountability, and also encroached radically onto our private lives. So there's not a moment when we're not somehow performing a version of ourselves for social consumption, whether it's on Instagram or social media. Then I think she had the next stage of the analysis is not just bureaucratic, heavy-handed Soviet or Nazi institutions. It's actually to think about how that happens in our versions of the social. And also, she would say, and I would say, what happens to political accountability in that mode? And there is a sense, and I'm not the only person to commentate on this, in which we've almost switched over. So what should be publicly known, who gets what contract, how things are being paid for, who owns the money, what kind of system is working for who, which politicians, all that stuff we can't see, is now gone to be private. Those are considered private questions that we can't ask our politicians. Whereas private life is the way we judge rather than politics. So it's completely switched round from the way that Arendt and others thought it should be. And I think we do need to be very watchful about that. And that when Arendt uses that phrase, which I began with, like an attentive facing up to reality, maybe the key word there is attention, attending to what is happening in front of us, rather than this endless consumption and creation of social anxiety and social pleasure, which blinds us to what is happening.